Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom, and today's special guest is Mark Legacy. He is the founder of Humpback Hydro. That is a long-duration pumped hydro energy solution. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you, Wendy. Nice to be here.
Anytime. Now, you're a vastly intelligent human being. You and I have had a few conversations, and you are one of the smarter people I have dealt with, so it's a little intimidating. But I want to go into, let's start with your background, because you are not a traditionally taught engineer. You are self-taught. So go into, you worked hands-on, you had a construction background. It's a very interesting story.
Yeah, I grew up in a family. We were kind of like what you call early homesteaders. So whatever we didn't, grow or raise on the farm. And my father was one of the lead iron workers for built like Port Mann Bridge and all those kinds of things, and did a lot of the dams and so forth. And I grew up sort of being that little bug on the wall, because back then, bring your child to work day to get him to push a wheelbarrow was acceptable. So,
yes, it was, and you actually learned a lot from that too. Learn by doing.
Yeah, you got to see how they made mistakes, how they made corrections, and so forth. Yeah. And so, long ago, when I was in my youth, I was an athlete and traveled, and I got to see for the first time wind turbines all down in California on a hillside, very compact together, and it was the advent of solar panels and being able to create more energy from each panel. And it just got me to thinking about pump storage hydro and the limitations, the environmental damage and so forth, and possibly of taking that and removing it from its traditional environment and building it in a new environment where the reservoir would sort of never go dry. And that what led to, I don't know, a few decades of thinking, and then in the last 15 years really developing the solution to what it is today.
So talking about Humpback Hydro is, I've obviously read up on it, in preparation. It's almost circular. So you have, I will oversimplify, and then Mark is going to explain it a lot better than I ever could. But the initial reservoir is the ocean or a large lake. And it's gravity that pulls it into this other storage facility. In the off hours, when you don't need that maximum use of energy, it gets pumped back up into a water tower or storage reservoir that's elevated. And then gravitationally, that goes back down towards the ocean and uses that energy. So it's a complete circular motion in 4 stages. This is this was a patent that you won without artifact. And I want to point out to people, could you explain what without artifact means?
It's actually without prior art.
Without prior art, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so without prior art is something I didn't know until my patent lawyer told me, and it was his first ever. It's kind of like one of the most unique things in the patent world, because usually, somebody's already thought about it and patented, but this was sort of completely new, and it was sort of creating a new industry from an existing industry where it could be built everywhere in the world. And so what you just said was in essence correct, but it has a few more advantages than that.
Which I hope you go into, because I can't.
Yeah. So this is not a perpetual motion machine, even though it could be an open loop system or a closed loop system. The energy that's needed to power those pumps either comes from solar or wind, or even marine kinetics that can be applied to the structure. And so the lower reservoir is that quadruple backup, just in case there is no wind, solar, or marine kinetics, which is highly doubtful, but I'm not one to, take a chance. And also too, the space was there, and it creates the ability for a black start. So if we have no panels on the structure, we have no external energy coming in, we can simply open the valve and allow water to flow in through the penstock and down into the lower reservoir and start operations. And this reservoir is designed to client specifications or emergency needs or black start capabilities or ability to refill the pumps or
Okay.
power the pumps to refill the upper reservoir, which is designated to the client's actual needs. So if they need 10 megawatts every hour, then that upper reservoir is designed for a 24, 36, 48 hour at 10 megawatts. And in that time frame, we can then refill as we recharge, we can also discharge simultaneously. So it doesn't allow for us to ever have any downtime. And we're sort of taking in and distributing energy, transitioning it either to the grid or to other industry services that are needed, or to within our own structure for our own operational needs.
One of the things, well, first of all, to explain what long-term duration storage means. That's 10 hours or more of storage capability, which most energy devices don't have that. So batteries, I believe, are not able to store them that long.
Yeah, you can sort of configure the batteries so that you can get a little bit more time and stuff like that. But today, generally, the delivery system is 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
Some have stated that they can go 10 hours or even up to 100 hours of discharge. But then the recharge is also then, that time frame too, right? So if they're discharging
Gotcha.
for 100, they got to recharge for 100.
That
And
makes sense.
efficiency can be a real challenge. Like in the beginning, a battery, just like you have your own Duracell at home or your own phone, eventually over time, it doesn't charge as quick. It doesn't hold the charge as long. And so you're looking at that same kind of scenario when it comes to batteries. And the efficiency is really as important as cycle, and lifespan is also connected to that. Whereas our lifespan and our cycle repetition are two separate things. So the structure's lifespan is very long and protects the internal workings. And our equipment can be anywhere from 30 to 40 years. Depending on maintenance. Yeah, these turbines today and these pumps are great, and because we're using a multiple sets, so we can control our discharge a lot better. Client set needs 10 megawatts, but maybe some hours he only needs 4, so we can go down to 4 and save those 6 for a later usage. So it's really just sort of transferring energy a lot more efficiently via a water medium, which doesn't have a lot of entropy to it, like other gravity-based.
Entropy, so people understand.
Wear and tear, right? We all get old, right? So we all get slower, and we all get, so like you leave something out, and it eventually turns into mold. Fruit, vegetables, everything, has a lifespan. Concrete has a lifespan. But the new age concrete today is extraordinary, and that's why it makes the technology even better, because the concrete of today can last anywhere from 100 years to up to 300 years from the laboratory tests that have been going on for the last couple decades with ultra high performance concrete.
We're finally catching up to the Romans.
Yeah, this is actually, I would say, on par with Roman concrete, which, back in those days, they used a lot of sort of ash or bone ash.
Neat.
The recipe was sort of figured out. I mean, eventually, we're going to figure out all those chemical analysis, but the thing with Roman concrete is it just gets stronger over time. And
yes, it does. Yeah.
Whereas with our concrete partners, Core Tough out of Virginia and Lightweight Concrete Solutions out of Toronto, Chris, who's kind of like me but in the concrete world, is a guy who's invented concrete that's 1,000 kilograms lighter per cubic meter.
Oh, nice.
Can be made with
That's
seawater.
very hugely
Uh,
important. Durability.
yeah, non-permeable, and the curing stage is extraordinary. And Core Tough is just this ultra high performance concrete is 6 times better than what we've been used to. So things like buildings in Miami falling over because of erosion and cracking and fatigue and
Seawater
structural.
infiltration. Yeah.
This won't happen with this kind of concrete. It was originally developed as a way for ballistic protection with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so
Huh.
my partner and CEO is Colonel Brian Green, who is the former commander of the Engineering Research Development Center in Vicksburg. He's 30-year senior commander, highly decorated. And so with him, we're able to sort of build these mega structures and allow for that transition to actually happen to sort of, a more reliable, clean energy solution to local communities, to island communities, and especially to, areas where we can decentralize it. Prime example would be like New York Harbor. They have a lot of different boroughs there, but there's a lot of people in each borough, Staten Island, Bronx, Brooklyn. So you could build structures all around New York Harbor and literally not get in anyone's way. And the added benefit to that is once the structures are done, you have a reliable energy source that can withstand a Category 5 hurricane for at least 24 to 48 hours. And
Very important.
yeah, the external solar panels, the wind turbines and so forth might get, damaged. That's why the internal reservoir to maintain operations during those kinds of events, so that and then after we can do a black start, which is helping the thermal power plant turn back on, because normally they turn them off. And when it comes to like say for example New York Harbor, they get a lot of flooding. So in the future they're looking at storm surge gates and protection. Our structures would be able to maintain their pump system so that if these rivers of rain came in like before, the water has the ability to run off into the harbor, which is lowered now because we've been able to pump the water out and create sort of a bathtub effect where you can fill in more water.
That's very
So,
forward thinking. I mean, it's as I keep telling people, our climate issues and our energy issues, it's not a one solution problem. We need multiple solutions, multiple ideas. And you very artistically outlined how every aspect of your Humpback Hydro system, you've considered the concrete that you use or the cement. You've considered where you put it. You've considered the durability of hurricanes, because yes, we are seeing many more of those come through, much more, wild, horrible storms. Wildfires coming through. I'm sure you probably thought of that one too, of making them durable.
yeah, that's been
You,
horrifying to see. Towns, homes, Hawaii.
oh
Here in
yeah,
my province, the town was obliterated. So yeah,
oh yeah, Northern California.
yeah,
It's not going away anytime soon. So the more we prepare and mitigate for these losses, the better we are. Now you were able to take your Humpback Hydro and scale it up to actually address our grid issues, our energy grid needs, because we just keep consuming more and more energy.
yeah. The ability to scale up, and especially so, really, what the structure is, it's also a generation and storage. So
Mm-hmm.
because of the way it's designed, 10 megawatts every hour. If we need to increase that for, say, peak demand, for
Mm-hmm.
example, or for nighttime, the energy is 5 megawatts more is needed. So because we've stored enough for 36 hours, and because we know we're going to have solar the next day or wind the next day, we can increase our output, our discharge to say 20 megawatts or 15 or 30 megawatts for a few hours or more to address that. And so for the grid, we can build structures which are 100 megawatts, 1,000 megawatt structures, large structures,
Yeah.
which can provide a utility arbitrage, which the utilities that have pump storage hydro know the benefits, and that's they can store that energy and use it later. Store it for 2 cents, 3 cents a kilowatt hour, and discharge it for 6 and still make a profit. So it's
very important aspect, actually, because when we one of the things everyone talks about when they talk about renewable energy, no matter what form of renewable energy it may be, we talk about efficiency, we talk about cost. So I want to talk first efficiency, where you and I discussed that 1 megawatt of Humpback Hydro in 1 year saves, I believe, it was 5,000 barrels of oil. Is that correct?
Approximately, yeah. But
or like 5,500. It was a large amount of oil that we were saving.
And that's based on EPA figures, their calculations of fossil fuel burning to renewable energy. So
and that fossil fuel burning is, you gave me the number of 3,500 tons of CO2 that would not have been emitted as pollution.
Yeah, that's I mean, let me just state that these are all sort of estimates based on other agencies. So I'm just sort of doing a rough estimate on what would my technology provide, in the sense of they're trying to address carbon capture, which has a lot of challenges, and the technology is new. But if we're not putting it, as we transition, power plants that are still going to be operating in the next 10, 20 years, but no new power plants. So it's sort of important to, as we reduce, we are also being able to save those thermal plants from wasting more energy. The cost, when you consider batteries and other energy storage technologies, and you calculate in all the variables from efficiency to what's called a levelized cost of storage. It's an equation now that the Department of Energy, or the NREL, National Research Energy Laboratory, which is US based, created. So there's a levelized cost of energy, which literally all things have, right? Like products to everything like that. And and then there's a levelized cost of storage. So in all of that, we have the lowest because of our longevity and our ability to replace, repair, or refurbish. And also that it's how would you say, it's based on a kilowatt. Batteries right now, I think, are anywhere from like $1,700 a kilowatt to roughly $3,000 a kilowatt. The higher the price, you're dealing with more hours. So if it's like a 1,700, you're probably having only a 2-hour discharge time.
Batteries are also very expensive to replace, though, because as you mentioned earlier, as you use it more and more, it loses its ability to hold its charge. And then you have to buy another one. And I've heard that some of them are $10,000 just to replace.
That would be pretty cheap. Yeah, that would be pretty cheap. I mean, when you're looking at, like, when you talk about the kilowatt, if you're looking for the megawatt, you got to times that by 1,000. So that would be 1.7 to like $2.4 million for a megawatt of battery storage at, some say 90%, but that declines at a 4% rate, degradation rate. Some others, it's sort of like they don't really fully explain like every benefit and every disadvantage of the technology.
Because I was thinking like Tesla batteries in a car. I wasn't thinking scaling up to the size of grid. So that's on me.
Sorry. Then that's a pretty good price for a car to have a battery replaced, because the batteries are really great for like that mobile application, especially electrification. Hydrogen has its benefits, electrification, batteries, But then we also have a critical metal crisis.
Yes, we do.
And so that, yeah, I'll be, we have technology that we're bringing to bear on that. But that's for another time.
Yes, folks, stay tuned because Mark is working on many patents right now, so he's going to be coming back a lot.
Yeah. The one thing I will say before this is that the next technology that I invented was called the Aqua Wall, and I just went through proof of concept with University of British Columbia and the University of Victoria, and that's the storm surge. It's sort of a living seawall and a way to protect our coastal communities that are very low-lying, agricultural based. The reason why it's called a living seawall is that marine life can migrate through it without any impediments. But when the storm comes, we can shut everything down and then protect from that storm surge, which is usually the most devastating thing. But I digress. I'll get to that another time.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that one in the future.
The cost of Humpback is roughly $5,000 a kilowatt. So $5 million a megawatt, $50 million to about, and depending, right? It's a construction job. So, sometimes weather delays and stuff like that. So $50 to $70 million, you get 10 megawatts, and that's 10 megawatts. So that would be 87,600 megawatt hours a year from 10 megawatts.
That's pretty good. I mean, it sounds good. I'm not the expert in this. You're the engineer.
Yeah, no, most right now they're doing is like they got, say a 100 megawatt facility or a 10 megawatt facility, and they can deliver, say 26,000 megawatts a year, depending. So and that's where the confusion gets in. People got to sort of be aware of when they say kilowatt or kilowatt hour. There's ways of sort of making the numbers look good for them, but at the end of the day,
people would want to do that. Shocking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it, but for me, I'm lucky because pump storage hydro is well proven, and governments are used to I'm not changing anything. I'm using the same equipment, same pumps, turbines, and that's really where the innovation has come from. Like in my industry. Some smart people have made pumps very efficient. So I can move like 60 meters per second of water for like 4 megawatts every hour. And in that, I can fill up a reservoir that I can discharge that for like 36 hours at 5 megawatts. So 180 megawatts for little under 16 megawatts for 4 hours of energy. So that's sort of the transfer. And roughly you're getting a 91% efficiency. But then there's sort of but that will go down because of the efficiency in the transmission and all that stuff. So things are improving. I mean, I know that they've come up with a grid resiliency, so improving infrastructure. And this really does benefit utilities and especially transmission companies that, because the grid can only take so much at these AC lines can only take so much energy at one time. So this way it gives the utility the ability to save on operational and maintenance costs of those transmission lines by storing the energy and then waiting for a better time later, or frequency balancing, and the cycle repetition that utilities might need, especially today because of the transition to EVs. So normally peak demand is peak demand all throughout the day. It all depends, especially at night with all the EV chargers and and all that kind of stuff. And we've made sort of 3 models. So there's the static model for the grid, and then we have a distributed energy resource model, which is say for your EV parking lot, to power that parking lot or store the energy for that parking lot, EV discharging. and then a disaster relief model, but that's usually connected to our mobile platform.
I
So
love the fact
that
you're so
yeah,
forward thinking on all of these aspects. You really have thought everything through.
yeah, I've had the time to do it. So you know, uh, you know, uh, I you know, yeah, it's just it's like the big problem I see right now today is the water energy food nexus or crisis. Is what I call it. And so um, the upcoming version would have sort of desalination and hydroponics
Nice.
incorporated into it, which basically the structure is to operate and not allow Mother Nature to interfere, but also to capture what our planet can offer from wind to solar and then just basically transfer it. So the structures have to be big because energy transfer works that way. The laws of thermodynamics have to work that way.
Yeah.
It's not like Theranos or the blood in the box thing. Where you can't do that. Like it just But with this,
It's reality, not fantasy.
yeah. And so, a client, we build to what the client needs or what their future needs are. So today
Oh yeah.
they need 100 megawatts, but in the future, we can do a controlled demolition. And unlike a regular dam, which might have, a catastrophic event, which would cause a lot of damage,
Yeah.
Downstream, and as well as most dams do have sort of a detrimental effect downstream because of the sort of the disruption in the oxygenation of
Mm.
the microorganisms to amphibian life to bird life to all that stuff in a lot of the rivers. And so upstream, you're looking at the reservoir and the methane and all of that created for a number of years due to flooding that area. And so with our structure, we actually benefit marine life because the lower part of the structure we can design to that species in that area's habitat. And so, the big thing for me was marine benefits, right? So, from our marine experts that we've talked to over the years, oxygenation created
Hmm.
from the process of returning that existing reservoir back to the existing reservoir benefits. We can create habitat. We
Yeah.
also create protection areas so that marine life can survive, because we might feel a storm up here, but underneath the water it's usually 10 times worse. And
So it gives them a place to hide, basically.
yeah, like we take care of our animals on land, but we don't take care of our fish and so forth, because I think people just think it's ridiculous, right? But we have to consider that marine habitat, that ecosystem is so vital to us because it
Oh
will
yeah.
you know
Most people don't realize how important our ocean and oceanography, not oceanography, but our oceans are.
yeah,
We gain so much from our ocean environment, including most of our oxygen is coming from the ocean, just so people know, and most of our carbon
yeah,
gets sucked into the ocean. So very important to keep it alive.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Now, when people, I know you've been up and running since 2014, and where can people find you? What is the best way for people to contact you? Because this is a technology that we desperately need, especially when you start working in your phases with the desalinization. That's a huge thing for California and other parts of the country.
Yeah.
Um, People need to find you.
Humpback Hydro, we have a online form,
Oh, excellent. Okay.
and as well as I'm pretty sure you can find me on LinkedIn. Yes, of course you can. Um,
I tagged you. I found you.
yeah, I forget, right? Like I don't think about those things, so to speak. But on LinkedIn, and we are looking for those to collaborate with renewable projects, even for oil and gas to help with their bottom line, to to even the Bitcoin industry, which is so
Oh,
energy intensive.
you're right.
Now, if we're going to that kind of digital currency in the future, they used 102 terawatt hours, which is, to break it down in a easy way, 11,656 megawatts every hour to do Bitcoin at their
Just to
current
mine Bitcoin.
stage, just to mine Bitcoin. Ending in October 22. So Bitcoin, this really benefits like Bitcoin, desalination, emergency services that need to have 24 hours, energy, like hospitals, for example.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things in which, like, at the end of the day, we're not, detrimentally harming our planet just so that, the economy can survive. And that's really where the sort of the argument comes. The people that know, we have to continue with fossil fuels because they currently know of no other way to transition.
Yeah.
Right. And long duration energy storage, something that is, it has to be at least 85%. It has to match what traditional pump storage hydro does.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to match mine, but just match that. And that can discharge for at least 6 to 12 hours a day. But then you also have water cycle disruption. So water cycle disruption causes drought. And of course, you can see in Lake Mead, they had to, spend almost $1 billion to redo the intake valves.
We were almost something called Deadpool, where you can't even pull anything from it. It's completely useless. We came very close to that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like with Lake Mead, it's easy. We build my structures off the coast of California, and we can easily deliver via renewable energy a water pipeline to refill Lake Mead. And then also then that downstream effect helps other communities right into Arizona. But the whole thing is that, we stop looking to the old, even in traditional pump storage and run of river, that's, blocking these rivers. There's better ways to do it. And you're going to get almost the same amount of energy and not disrupt, fish migration or create disturbances in the oxygenation or so much more,
No, there are so many benefits to Humpback Hydro, and the efficiency is phenomenal. 90 to 91% efficiency is phenomenal. Being overall, some of the facts you gave me was 6 times cheaper overall than just electric. And as I've said previously, it's a multi-solution problem. We have not one solution. So
I do want to say one thing that back in 2013, I had a meeting with the NRC, 3 departments, and the man who validated the technology attended the meeting. His name is Dr. Ziad, Z-I-A-D, Shawash, S-H-A-W-W-A-S-H. And he is from civil engineering at UBC. I think he's retired now. Brilliant man, hydroelectric expert and large structure expert. And he thought back then that we could achieve 90% efficiency. And, that was, like he saw it long before I did. I had to, take this long to figure it and prove it and all that kind of stuff. But it's that kind of thing, is that the experts are out there that know that this would work. And now we have something that we can implement for global transition. It just takes sort of government and platforms like this to help with public awareness. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, anytime. This is what I do. Public awareness is everything that I focus on, just to make sure people know that technology like yours exists, people like you exist. This is the whole reason for it. So I do thank you for your time, because I know that you are quite busy. And I really hope that people start adopting this new technology, because it is what we need to solve our energy issues. Heck, call it a crisis. We're heading that way. So go ahead. One last word.
They did say that today.
Yeah. Oh, really?
That it was on the news, and I think it's going to be one of the headlines of the news, is that there's been there'll be 110% increase in fossil fuel production to 2030, and the transition is in sort of jeopardy.
Yeah.
It just, at this point, I think, it's becoming more known. And really what we're doing is as simple as building a car parking lot, right? It's just, we're doing the same thing. We're just doing it in the ocean, which we've always been able to do. And instead of storing cars, we store water. And
Yeah.
it's just, and we can build it to you what you need. So um, thank you again. Really,
Yeah.
this is wonderful.
Anytime. So, guys, please check out Humpback Hydro, Mark Legacy. Very important that this technology is adopted and adopted quickly, because it is an energy solution that we desperately need. It does not give off emissions. It just uses water. So look on his website. He's got the whole diagrams out there. It's very simple to understand. So, Mark, thank you so much for your time. Very important work that you're doing. I'm Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice, and we will catch you next time. Take care, guys. Bye.